Welcome to Unlearn the Crap TV with your host, Kathy Baldwin. Unlearn the Crap TV is more than just a show. It's a movement towards breaking free from the disempowering structures designed to benefit the few at the expense of the many. It's about education, healing, and unlearning the detrimental beliefs that have been ingrained in society for generations. So now, please welcome the host of Unlearn the Crap TV, Kathy Baldwin.
Hi, you know that saying that everything happens for a reason, or the question, if you knew what you knew now, then would you make a different decision? I think about those questions all the time, but I also think about the journey that I have been on and how many times the universe had to knock on my shoulder or take a 2x4 actually to take me down in order for me to learn what it was I was supposed to be learning. So we have these moments and times where we're wondering, did I make a mistake? Did I fail? I tried so hard. Why didn't it work out like I planned? I was just in this meeting before I got here with some amazing people, and there was a lot of vulnerability happening, and a lot of people were sharing how the failures that they had had and how disappointing and how it could wreak havoc on our heart and our soul and our identity. And I can tell you, I have had more of my fair share of falling down flat on my face and having to pick myself back up. Well, everything happens in divine timing in the world of Unlearn the Crap TV, because those experiences and those questions were coming up just before these two amazing guests are coming on my show. Will, could you bring in Diamond and Sherry? Hello, beautiful ladies. I'm so happy you're here.
Hey, Kathy, how are you?
Awesome.
Hey,
So I was just telling people about experiences that I had had about falling down and failing, and how heart-wrenching it is when you put your heart and soul into building something and it doesn't work out like you planned. It can take you out of the game. And so, Sherry, I'm going to start with you because you start with C. Why not, right? Let's go alphabetical. Sherry, you have been not only a part of the education system as a teacher and a principal and help guiding people in that education system, but you also have developed a way of teaching and coaching people on how to build a business.
Absolutely, yes.
And so then we've got Diamond. Now, Diamond, I did not know an awful lot about her specialty until Unlearn the Crap came about. But when Diamond and I were having a conversation and we were getting to know each other, she was telling me about human design. And all I could think about was, what if I had have known from birth that I was a manifester? Would I have struggled with the mental health issues that I had? Would I have had the health issues, the fibromyalgia, the pain, the osteoarthritis, the replacement of knees, the constant pain and feeling like I'm not living up? If I had have known who I was. Diamond, you're an expert in human design. And between you and Sherry and this whole topic of stepping into our true alignment, I am so excited about this conversation. Thank you for both being here. So I'm going to start with Diamond, okay? Because the question is, and you and I were saying, you have children and you are raising your children different than the way I was raised. I was a Gen X. I was part of the drink out of the hose, latchkey kids, figure it out by yourself. Parents are stressed, they're all working, the 80s, the abundance. And we just kind of had to figure things out. And even though, as a young child, my family knew that there was something wrong with me. My body didn't work properly with all the digestion and stress, and I struggled with all sorts of depression and mental health and all these things. Nobody knew what to do with me. So tell me how knowing about human design could have been different for me.
Yeah, thank you, Kathy. So yes, I have a daughter. Her name is Taylor. She just turned 7 in May, at the end of May, and it would have been different because you would have had parents who knew how to honor your gifts. They knew how to like parent, because I wanted to say coach, but parents don't really coach, they parent. But parent you in the way that was aligned for you. Both myself and Taylor's dad are generators, and we don't have a defined ego, and she does. And so she has a lot of willpower. It's one of those situations where I'm told often, like, pick your battles, because she's gonna be one of those that like sticks to her guns. And just discovering things about her design, getting her excited to see her chart and understand little nuances of just who she is, getting her to, and this is a big one because we're both emotional, getting her to understand her emotions, to understand how to make decisions from a non-emotional place. It's super important because I was diagnosed with bipolar 2 when I was 14. And even now that I've dove into human design as deep as I have, I wonder how much is just like the emotional highs and lows of being an emotional, and how much is actually bipolar 2.
And could one create the other?
Yeah.
Because our brains are chemical beings that all those neurotransmitters and everything fire off. And so when what we think about, we create. And if we're always out of alignment with who we are, what kind of damage would that be doing to our brain and our mental health?
Yeah. Yeah. It's one of those things where it's like, for example, the other day, Taylor, there was a bee outside the window, and she was like, it's a bee," and she just freaks out because she doesn't like insects. And I'm like, "Yeah, but it's on the outside, Pooh." And then I rolled down the window a little bit, and it was like a crack. I was like, "Unless I do this," and she freaked out. She was like, "Oh my gosh," she was like crying. I was like, "Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry." Like, and it was one of those things where if I didn't know certain things about her design and her gene keys, like I would have just, been one of those parents who are like, "Why are you taking it so seriously? Like, get over it. It was just a crack, like this and that." Versus when she reacted the way that she did, I know that one of her genetic wounds is it shows up in her as being very emotional. And one of the first lines when you read the description is, "These are very sensitive and unusual people." And immediately when she reacted the way that she did, I was like, oh, there's the sensitivity that they were. And the way to heal that is through compassion and care. So that's what I parented as in that moment.
That is such an amazing story because I remember being the family joke because I was a talker. Well, I believe that as a Gemini and a manifester, I was kind of born to talk. And so I was constantly made fun of as and shut down and interrupted and all of these things, and they really created some wounds that affected the stress, the fibromyalgia, and all those other things. Can you, first of all, Sherry, do you know what your human design is?
Kathy, I'll be honest, I sure do not. But you're speaking, Diamond, and I have to say, I'm sitting here thinking, wow, that's my daughter. Whoa, that's me. So I really do need to check into that a whole lot more for sure.
That is so awesome, because I'm going to introduce the two of you. Sherry, me, Diamond. So now, Diamond, someone comes to you and they figure out what their human design is, and they want to create an independent business. They want to be independent financially, and they want to chart their own course, and they want to bring their gifts to the world. How do you decide, or uncover is the word, I guess, what is best for them?
Yeah, just oh my gosh, you're right about the universe giving you like what you need in the moment. Someone DM'd me today and they were like, "Can I ask you a question?" And it was around this very thing because he's a projector. He has an undefined G center, which means that he's really not meant to necessarily know who he is. He's really meant to sample different identities and try on and take from them like what he can. And as a projector, he's not supposed to subscribe to the work hustle grind that everyone else is. He's supposed to wait for the invitation. And so even in our discussion today, like one of the things, he has splenic authority, which means like his gut will tell him whether something is aligned for him in the moment and when it's not. And even just giving him the insight of like, you need to get into your body more. You need to really spend time like releasing the energies that you've taken in from other people so that you can be clear on like what it is that you want to do without influence from your family or your friends or society for that matter.
That's amazing. That sounds like someone who would be perfect at affiliate marketing, where they're just showcasing the people and the things that are important to them and not having to worry about picking a lane.
Yeah.
Sherry, so for people who want their own independence, because I have tried to build businesses since I was a teenager. I mean, I was an independent, whether it was starting with a newspaper route, or then I remember when internet came out, I was getting coaching programs and learning what SEO and all these things were when it was brand new. So if someone comes to you and they say, I want to take what I know and who I am and start a business, how how do you use that information to find what's best for them? Because you bring their genius to light, right?
Yes, absolutely. And it's interesting because being from the world of education and knowing that I worked with students to help them basically design what their future was going to be, right? Help them realize that they could make their future anything they wanted. And then to work with teachers brand new to the profession or coming in on board with me when I would go into the schools that I did, know that they wanted to perfect in some area or build skills so that they could go on to be future leaders, whatever it was. And then knowing that I worked with schools that were struggling and I had to go in and figure out what was working and figure out quickly what wasn't working and then realize how to fix them and put those processes and procedures in place to turn them around. I took all of that and I still really want to respect the person themselves. So I love this whole talk about human design because the more you know yourself, the more you know what's going to light you up and what's going to keep your passion burning, that's the very first step because you have to find something that you are going to be committed to 2000%. And I know that that's not even a possibility, but that's how we look at it because it's going to be hard, right? But then also, a lot of times people come to me and they have a bazillion ideas and they want to do everything. And I was one of those people, right? I thought I could help everybody, I can fix everything. But we have to really sit down and brainstorm together and go through a process that helps us realize what do you love? What are you good at? And then what could you make into a business. And that's the first few steps that we take together to get ourselves started. So
That is amazing. I cannot believe how fast things have gone. We just talked over a commercial break, so we're going to just keep going for a little bit longer. I wanted to ask if there was something that you could do differently that would help people know how to get on their alignment. Would human design, knowing themselves, or AI, or the changes that are happening, because we are in such a huge paradigm shift. Everything is changing, and there's so many people who are lost. What could you have done differently in the past that you would make a different decision today? Kind of what I opened with. Yeah, that was for you, Sherry. Sorry.
okay. Sorry about that. I have to say, I am very self-aware. So although I've not had training or background in human design, I know me and I know what resonates with me, where my core values are. And I just actually talked about this today on one of my lives. You have to know who you are, and then you have to be true to yourself. Because there was a point in time, I transitioned from a very small town in Iowa where life was completely different down here to Houston. And Houston's huge, right? And it was a whole different lifestyle, not just the mere fact of different climate. I was going from being a college student to becoming a professional. There were just so many changes. And I remember thinking, oh, I should be like her. Or maybe I should be like her. Or maybe I should dress like her. And I was just so lost trying to find myself. And I was exhausted. And I think I was exhausting everybody around me as well, right? Because I don't know, my ex-husband would probably tell you, my gosh, I didn't even know who she was on a day-to-day basis. I don't know. But I do know that when I stopped and I said, okay, this is not working for me. I have to be me. And I have to realize I am worthy. I have a lot of knowledge and skill. I have a lot of empathy for people and ways to help children and teachers and schools, communities, and now in my business, even that I just have to be me. And being self aware and understanding where your strengths are and your vulnerabilities really is important. And so, if I could talk to my younger self, I'd say to myself, you know who you are. Be you. Don't waste time trying to be six other different people. Just be you, because that's who you can be and that's your superpower. Nobody else is going to be like you.
Absolutely. And that's part of what I talk about in Unlearn the Crap, is that we're trying to be put into a world of conformity where it's been told to us what makes us acceptable, what products we need to buy, what we need to look like, what we need to sound like. And authenticity and uniqueness have been deemed as something wrong with you.
And I'll agree with you, Kathy, because I will say when I made the transition out of public education, it wasn't because I didn't love what I was doing. But I will be honest, the mandates from the state level, from the district level, it starts to become overwhelming. But what it also does is it does keep everybody in a box. The expectation is you follow this traditional path. You graduate high school, you go off to college. And now some districts, we were one, this last district I was in, where we started to say, okay, maybe a trade school rather than college. But never did we have conversations about, well, what about those kids that want to go off to be a YouTuber or an author? There wouldn't have been tracks for people like me, right? I stayed on that traditional track. I knew I wanted to help children. Teachers were very important to me. But now in the space that I'm in, if this were me as a child trying to decide my future career, I would be out there wasting money, getting a college degree, and then possibly never utilizing it because my creativeness, my desire to be unique, to be different, to go out and do something that's not on a traditional path doesn't necessarily require that.
Absolutely. I found myself a single parent at 21, and I thought I had to do things the right way in order to be a good provider. So I went back to school. I got my college education. I worked so hard to do that with 2 and 3 jobs to get that education.
Mhm.
Not one employer ever asked to see that proof, and everything I learned was so outdated.
Mhm.
It
You're
was so
right.
out it I mean, I was in business, so it was a time of things changing, and nothing that I learned is applicable anymore.
Mhm. Now, of course, I needed my college education because of the path that I was on as a school administrator. My daughter's a teacher as well. I don't know if she's going to stay in the profession, but I'll be honest, my daughter is at a place where she has over $70,000 in debt from student loans for her bachelor's and master's degree. Now, she took a path that was very winding. And so, maybe we could have cut some of those costs a little bit, but nonetheless, she's responsible for that. And if she takes the path that she believes that she's going to do, she may be coming on board with me in my business now. And honestly, she knows me and she knows what I stand for and how I do things. I'm not going to necessarily need to think about the fact that she has a master's degree, if that makes sense.
Absolutely, it's all different.
Mhm.
So, Diamond, if someone is trying to figure out what their path and their lane is, how do they start working with you to find out, like, what are all the different human design personality types, and what's best for what?
Yeah, so I usually find that their gene keys offers a lot more information about where they thrive best. Like that was one of the things that I looked up earlier. Each one of us, we have like our pearl sequence in gene keys, and so within that there are different like characteristics and different shadows to look out for, but it also tells you, again, like I said, where you thrive best. And so I usually start with looking at their human design, simply because I like to know whether they're an energy type. Technically they're all energy types, but some are non-energies. So the person that I was talking to earlier today, he's a projector. He doesn't have like the sacral energy to sustain the work, hustle, grind that many generators have, kind of become accustomed to fitting in to that narrative. And so for him, slow is the best way. And he thrives best in a position where his wisdom and knowledge is highly respected. He is very young, so he doesn't really know what that is yet, that wisdom. But again, one of the things that came up in his gene keys, what he's here to do in this lifetime, it deals with relationship dynamics. And in his own activation sequence, he has to transform the shadow of codependence into this gift that allows him to really expand into the person that he's meant to become. And so to know that, and to know that it's been a journey for him to even separate from his surroundings right now, it becomes a situation where if he's able to like track what his moves are to overcome the shadow, he has a lot of wisdom that he can then share with people who may be feeling like they're doing it wrong. Like I told him today that he was a 3-5 profile, and the 3 is the martyrer. And so with those people, it can oftentimes feel like if you don't know you're a 3, that you're failing all the time. And
Mhm.
such a simple perspective shift of knowing that you're a 3 and knowing that you're meant to learn through experience gives you another lens to look at situations through, versus why am I failing all the time? Why is the universe against me? To then, what is this trying to teach me? What is the wisdom that I can pull from this? So that's where we start with the gene keys when it comes to like the business path and things.
Wow. What a difference that would make in our lives if we all knew that ahead of time. Well, we're going to take this perfect opportunity to head off to a short little break, and we're going to continue this conversation and get a little more intimate and detailed.
What if there were a super tiny device that could diagnose the brain and is smaller than a single human hair? What if you could see inside the brain to help an epilepsy patient during surgery or to help the fight against Parkinson's disease? Dr. Patricia Broderick is proud to announce the Broderick Probe, a biomedical and electronic breakthrough. Imagine a probe to help with the understanding and potential cure of brain-related diseases. To learn more, listen live to the Easy Sense radio show with host Dr. Broderick, Wednesdays 7 p.m. Eastern on the Bold Brave Media Network and TuneIn Radio. And to help support the Broderick Foundation, please go to EasySense.com and learn how, with your help, we can fight these horrific brain disorders. That's EasySense.com to learn more and help support the Broderick Foundation. Author, radio show host, and coach John M. Hawkins reveals strategies to help gain perspective, build confidence, find clarity, achieve goals. John M. Hawkins' new book, Coached to Greatness, Unlock Your Full Potential with Limitless Growth, published by iUniverse. Hawkins reveals strategies to help readers accomplish more. He believes the book can coach them to greatness. Hawkins says that the best athletes get to the top of their sport with the help of coaches, mentors, and others. He shares guidance that helps readers reflect on what motivates them. We discover and assess their core values, philosophies, and competencies, find settings that allow them to be the most productive, and track their progress towards accomplishing goals. Listen to John Hawkins' My Strategy, Saturdays, 1 p.m. Eastern on the BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio.
So, if you're one of those people, like Diamond was just talking about, that feels that you're always sampling and trying and shifting and moving from thing to thing and feeling like you're failing, like you can't find your place, what would it do? How does that change people's confidence, Diamond, when they really step into a place and appreciate that these aren't failures, but when you know better, you do better, like Maya Angelou says. She's one of my favorite quotes. But if you started off with that self-knowledge before we go through these trial and error and figuring this out by mistakes.
Yeah, the knowledge the knowledge helps in so many ways with confidence. I will use myself as an example. So I'm a 5-1 in human design. And so the 5 has this projection field of like solutions, save the day energy, kind of like, I'm in the grocery store and not every projection is correct and aligned. So they'll ask me if I know where things are. And I'm like, I don't work here. But they just kind of sense that I kind of know what's going on. They're like, I'm gonna ask her. And it pairs nicely with the 1 because the 1 is the investigator. I love going down rabbit holes of information. And one of the things that human design has done is for certain aspects of my personality, things that I made myself wrong for, it's actually how I was designed to be. And it felt like I was coming home to myself the more that I dove into this particular rabbit hole. And so one thing that you have to be careful of is you can never have all the facts. Like every day there's new science, there's new information, there are new tools coming out, and it's hard to feel like you have that firm foundation. So even giving myself permission to say, hey, you know enough, and to lean into my strategy and authority, and I'm a emotional authority, and knowing that just because I have information, there's a certain feeling that I'm looking for in order for it to feel aligned and correct for me to share that. No one wants the person who's just like giving random facts all the time that they weren't asked. So knowing when is like correct and aligned through waiting for emotional clarity, like that's 100%. And Sherry was talking about knowing who you are. And at the end of the day, we are awareness. We have forgotten how to live as our authentic self because we have confused ourselves to believe that we are the body and we are this mind, but we are limitless beings. We are cosmic beings of powerful stuff. We are powerful co-creators. And when you know that and you have a unique energetic blueprint to show you some of the things and how your personality came to be, how to check in with these signposts, it just makes you even more aware, and it makes it easier to go after the things that bring you joy with less resistance. And it's a beautiful process.
I love that. So, when we come to a place where we discover that we're not living fulfilled, we're not living aligned, the world is changing so fast, our jobs are changing, and we know who we are because we've gone in and worked with Diamond and got our human design and all that. And now we come to you, Sherry, and we want to leave the job, but we're not wasting those years, right? We're not wasting that knowledge. How do we take that and pivot to a entrepreneurial, self-employed, self-aligned?
That's a great question. And I love that because I did exactly that. I was very successful in my career. I turned around 3 different schools. I'd been principal of the year a couple of different times, even at the state level here in Texas. And the structure of that JOB, so to speak, it was there, right? You always got paid on this day and this day. And even with education, and especially after the pandemic, we all learned you can't teach little children. I was already always in elementary aged groups, but you can't teach them online, right? You're always going to need teachers. You're always going to need principals. You're always going to need schools. So I was in a position where my job wasn't going to be cut. My paycheck was always there. Benefits were always provided, all of those things. But something in me was not feeling aligned any longer. And knew I needed to make a change because I always believe, as I mentioned earlier, if your heart's not in it, you're not going to do your best work. And so when I made the pivot, I was like 150% on board. I was so motivated. I remember my parents were visiting, and I walk out to get ready to go to my first networking event. And my dad says, "Wow, you look great." And I said, "Thanks. I'm going to go get myself 10 customers." And I came home and I was like, no, I got 0. And, there have been ups and there have been downs. And entrepreneurship is hard. And the unknown, it is the polar opposite of what working for a school system is. And there have been days where I go, whoa, what did I get myself into? And you doubt everything about yourself. And even as someone who's very self-aware, who's had a lot of experience, a lot of training, and I'm 53, I have a lot of just life knowledge. I've started to feel that imposter syndrome and lose my confidence. And even worse, begin to feel like I wasn't worthy of being able to do this. And I had to stop myself. And I had to remind myself, even though I was doing something different, that now, instead of being a big fish in a pond, I was now a guppy in the ocean. And that's okay, because I wasn't coming into it like a 22-year-old right out of college. I was coming into it as a 52-year-old with lots of experience in life and lots of leadership experience and lots of building relationships and problem solving and doing all of the things. And so I had to remind myself about that. And I think that's something that we all need to do sometimes. When we make pivots in life, whether they're personal or professional, you're not necessarily scrapping everything that you did before. And you're not coming in as the total rookie. You're coming in as someone who's got a lot of experiences. They may not be aligned with the exact work you're doing now or the exact change you're making in your life. But if you dig deep enough, you'll find that somehow they can align. And having that perspective and mindset really is going to help catapult you forward faster rather than being the victim, and thinking, oh, woe is me, I can't do this, kind of a thing. And I think it's the difference between success and failure as well.
Absolutely. You know my belief that we are coming into, or we're in the midst of, a paradigm shift. You said you knew that it was time for you to change and pivot.
Mhm.
How did you know? What did it feel like for those people who are questioning and not really knowing? Just what does it feel like? How do they identify that that's where they might be?
So I went through some challenging years over the last 13. I went through a very, very challenging divorce. And after my divorce, I started to question things. 13 years ago, it seems like some days, yesterday seems like some days, it was forever ago. But I started to wonder, am I on the right path? Because now that I was alone and I was building my own life, one that I was able to design exactly what I wanted. Did I want it to stay in the world of education? Because as I mentioned, sometimes they keep you in that mold, right? In that box. Did I want to stay in the box? I had so many goals and dreams as a kid. Was it time for me to pivot? But, my brain took over at that point and said, look, you're single. You have to pay the bills. You have a house. You have a daughter in college. You got to make it work. Just stay with what you know and just stay on this path. And as I mentioned, I loved the work I did. But when I was turning 50, one of my very close friends, her husband died very unexpectedly, right after they got off a flight from their vacation, their family vacation, like within minutes. And I went to the funeral, I went to see her, and we're talking. And something hit me at that moment where I was like, oh my gosh, I've never put myself first. I have done everything for everyone else. Yes, I always wanted to be in the school systems, but beyond that, I was taking care of other people's children, taking care of teachers, building and growing those teachers, and almost becoming like a mother figure to them, right? I was working even through vacations that I had in my contract to take care of the school. I was doing everything for my daughter, which I have no regrets, but when was it going to be time to do something for Sherry?
Yeah.
And I told myself, you have 2 years. 2 years from today, you better figure this out because you're leaving. You're leaving that school. And then I just started doing things. And I just released a book this past week, and it's called She Said Yes, and it made all the difference. And Kathy, you are part of that title. So thank you, girl.
That's
But I
right.
talk about it in that book too. But I gave myself the permission to say yes to me. And we don't do that as women, for sure, as mothers, as partners or wives, as career women. We put everybody in front of us. That was my moment when I knew, and I knew I had to do each and every step along the way to start moving myself forward. And that's how I got on this path.
Wow. I am sure that almost everybody who's watching has can identify with your story. I know I can. And
Mm-hmm.
Diamond, I'm pretty sure that you have some sort of pivot story as well. We have a couple of minutes before our next break. Can you share your moment when you that it was time for you to pivot?
Yeah, I'll make it short. Last year, I did a lot of work branding myself as a business coach, business resilience coach. All of the AI frameworks, get visible with video, the whole gamut. But what I was finding was that people had the proven strategies and frameworks, but they didn't believe in themselves enough to actually post the video because they thought, oh, it's not going to get the engagement, this and that. And I was having some of those same struggles myself around self worth. And when someone asked me, do you know what your energy type is? I was like, no. And she sent me a calculator and I looked it up, and immediately the one kicked in me. And I was like, what's a generator? And for a really long time, I had saw my energy as something that was outside of me. And I was like, how do I monetize that? Like, how does that even come into a focus as like a gift that I can display? And with human design, it made it a part of me. When I'm lit up, when I'm at my best self, when I'm in my highest alignment, that's when people are magnetized towards me. And if I can get people to understand their uniqueness in that same way and magnetize their people, I knew that I had to change from just tips on how to get visible with video. I was like, I need to go deeper and do this work.
Wow. Well, we're so glad you did. And on that note, we'll be right back after this break.
Did you know that your beliefs create your entire reality? But it's the subconscious beliefs that do most of the creating. Belief shifter and life coach Shiraz can help you identify those limiting beliefs and eliminate them, often in a single session.
Like, it was almost instant. Like, I had relief right away.
Creating better health, relationships, careers, and finances. Let Shiraz help you step out of safety and into awareness.
Definitely something's happening. It's like a flow inside. It feels good.
Whether in person or online, Shiraz provides personal coaching, belief shifting. Visit Shiraz at energeticmagic.com or call 416-529-7429. Energetic Magic on the BBM Global Network, Tuesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern. Find your greater happiness. Be well. Be aware. Be magical.
Are you struggling to care for elderly parents or a spouse? Do you wonder if being a caregiver is making you sick? Are you worried about taking time off work to care for elderly parents and balance work, life, and caregiving? Has caregiving become exhausting and emotionally draining? Are you an aging adult who wants to remain independent, but you're not sure how? I'm Pamela D. Wilson. Join me for the Caring Generation radio show for caregivers and aging adults, Wednesday evenings, 6 Pacific, 7 Mountain, 8 Central, and 9 Eastern, where I answer these questions and share tips for managing stress, family relationships, health, well-being, and more. Podcasts and transcripts of the Caring Generation are on my website, PamelaDWilson.com, plus my caregiving library, online caregiver support programs, and programs for corporations interested in supporting working caregivers. Help, hope, and support for caregivers is here on the Caring Generation and PamelaDWilson.com.
So I was saying, and I say this probably every opportunity I get, we are in a massive paradigm shift. The world is changing. We have AI, we have information, we have robotics. Our education system is changing. Our jobs are changing. The society is changing. Our financial systems, our government, our medical, everything is in change. And that's creating a lot of stress for people. My call to people is that they do self-knowledge, self-assessment, really know who they are. Find out if they have a different role than what they've been playing before. Because I believe we all have a special gift that we bring to this world that allows us to change the energy and the vibration and everything around us, because when we change that, everything changes. Nothing happens within a bubble. And so, my call to everyone who's watching, and if you're feeling rumbling of something's happening and you're not really sure what, I have two amazing women here who can help guide you through this process. And they're bringing their expertise to you because they are going to help not only guide you through this process. Diamond, would you explain how you can help someone align with their authentic self? And then I'll have Sherry explain how they can take that knowledge and monetize it, as you say.
For sure. So one of the things that I've created for people is the community. It's called Limitless You, which is a play on words because it's you as in YOU, but it's also you as in university. I
Ah,
have this giant binder full of human design things, the energy types, the gene keys, I Ching, all of it. And it really feels like I'm getting a crash course in me. I'm diving into the channels, I'm diving into the shadows, I'm seeing how I can transform them into gifts. And so, what I know is that accountability is 100% important because it's easy to fall back into the conditioned comfortability of what we were. Any real change, it takes at least 5 minutes a day, I feel like. And so, I created a opportunity for people to have some accountability with that. Every day I post little nuggets for people to check and see if they have this gate defined, if they have this energy center open, if these voices are coming out of the not self. And then there are weekly challenges where they get to talk about their wins and how once they're aware, how did they, with that awareness, change and transform that shadow into a gift. And then there's monthly Q&A calls where they have an opportunity to be face to face with me on Zoom and ask questions about them, ask questions about their kids, ask questions about their spouse, because lots of people, they love feeling like it's coming home, like they're coming home to themselves, but they also love getting to know the people around them. Because it's one thing to feel like, as Sherry said earlier, you have an emotional daughter. It's another thing to know this and to know some of the sources, some of the triggers that comes from. So I gave the link to you for that community. Awesome.
absolutely. And the link is right there for everyone to click on and get Diamond's expertise and help. And Sherry,
Well,
we
when I
let me just preface this by saying so many times we believe we need to already know. And that when we pivot into a business, because we have all this experience, we're supposed to know what to do. How can you make this so much easier for them?
Well, I do a couple of different things, as Diamond mentioned. And Diamond, you heard my dog. He loves what you do. I mean, you just never know when you're going to hear from him. But nonetheless, one of the big things that I do is I work with businesses, not just those in their startup, to help them organize their thoughts and get a plan in place to move forward. But I also work with businesses that want to scale to the next level. When I went in and did turnarounds with the schools that I worked in, everything was going sideways, right? And those schools were in danger of being taken over by the state entity. However, you don't have to wait until you're at that level to go, wait a minute, my business is not meeting all of my goals and dreams. I didn't start this just to be average. I want it to be amazing. And I can help you do that. So I help you by going in and doing a deep dive analysis into what is working for you, what does need to change, what does success look like for your business, because everybody's going to have a different definition. And then we put a plan in place, which may include some training, but what it really does is it focuses on the leader. The leader, because I believe the leader is the key component to any organization's success. And I really do believe you mentioned pivots and shifts and everything, Kathy, that's going on in the world right now. We have to rethink how we do leadership. We
Yeah.
cannot be the leaders that our grandparents were. We cannot be the leaders that think it's all about micromanaging, that it's about scaring people into performing. It's not any longer about this is the way it is because I said it's the way it is. But we have to start thinking about our leadership skills. So I also provide programs for female leaders, because the sad statistic that's out there is that at the end of 2022, here in the United States, only 8% of top CEOs were female. And within the last year, it hasn't changed that much. We're not making the money that the men are making. We're not getting those top positions. And so I also work with those of you who either want to go into leadership because you want to do it different, because you want to empower your people, or you're already at that position, but those skills that you had to get you into the position are not going to take you to that next level, especially not in 2024. So that's how people can definitely work with me. I do provide one-on-one coaching and mentorship as well, but those are my two big programs that I know will get any organization on track to doing amazing things.
Well, that could not be more timely in the shift that we're going through. The paradigm shift is bringing the feminine out of hibernation in men and in women, that creative force, that not doing it the way we've always done it, not doing it because I said so, doing it from a place of creative, beautiful energy. And I am so thrilled that I have matched the two of you into this show, because you brought everything that I think people needed to hear for their next transition. And so I'm really excited to know that even though both of these beautiful ladies have shared their links, I have just launched unlearnthecrap.com/marketplace, where you can go to the website and you don't need to worry about remembering these links or copying and pasting them. You can go and click on it right there and check into their products and their systems, because you know what? If you feel aligned to it, you might be like that gentleman that Diamond was talking about, and you might want an additional source of income by sharing these beautiful women just like I did. And so I want us all to take this time to challenge what we've learned, challenge what we think and our beliefs. Let's question everything so we can achieve anything, because the world is waiting for you and your genius to step forward. Thank you, Diamond. Thank you, Sherry. This has been an amazing conversation.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much, Kathy. I loved it.
Thank you. It was awesome.
I'm so glad. And until next time, next show, we are going to be challenging some pretty hot topics like sex and relationships. So you're going to want to be there. Until next time, we'll see you. Take care.
This has been Unlearn the Crap TV with your host, Kathy Baldwin. Tune in each week as Kathy challenges you to rethink everything you know about personal empowerment and societal structures. Thursdays, 4 p.m. Eastern on the Bold Brave TV network.